But as the Krill ships tried to retreat, a new threat emerged. Human stealth ships, silent and swift, moved in. One by one, they disabled the remaining ships, leaving them floating helplessly in space. The Krill had been lured into a trap, and now they were caught. On the bridge of a human stealth ship, the captain's voice was calm as he spoke. Targeting. Disabled. They're completely vulnerable. The crew worked swiftly, releasing specialized EMP pulses that fried the Krill ship's remaining systems. The Krill were completely at humanity's mercy. In the final moments, Admiral Kezer stood on the bridge of the Varlock, staring at the chaos around him. His fleet had been crushed. His empire was faltering. And yet, he couldn't help but feel something even worse than fear. It was the sting of disbelief. How could they do this? Kezer whispered to himself. How could humans do this? His voice trailed off as the human ships surrounded him. It wasn't over yet, but it would soon be. Admiral Kezer stared at the damaged hologram of the Krill fleet. The Varlock was surrounded by human ships, and his once proud fleet was crippled, floating in space, nothing more than abandoned hulks. But even in defeat, Kezer couldn't stop thinking. He had spent his whole life believing the Krill were the strongest, and now humans, weak, primitive, peaceful humans, had shattered that belief in the blink of an eye. How did they do this? He muttered to himself. On Earth, General Torres watched as the remaining human ships prepared to strike the final blow. But she knew something Kezer did not. This victory wasn't just for humanity. It was a message to the galaxy. The Krill had thought they were invincible. Now the galaxy would see what humanity could really do. This is just Phase 2, Torres said softly to herself, eyes scanning the map of the galaxy. There's more to come. Far from Earth, in a dark, crowded room on the planet Xarn, the alien species known as the Karn watched the human attack unfold in real time. Their long, insect-like bodies twitched nervously as they observed the Krill ships being destroyed. They did it, one of the Xarn leaders whispered. They actually did it. This changes everything, another said. What are we supposed to do now? The Karn had always been neutral, but they had watched the rise of the Krill with growing fear. Now, seeing the humans take down the once mighty Krill fleet, the Xarn leaders had to reconsider their position. We need to act fast, said Zorvok, a high-ranking Xarn officer. If we stay neutral, the humans will turn on us next. They will turn on everyone who opposes them. A younger officer, scared and uncertain, asked, but can we fight them? Can we even survive an attack from humans? Zorvok looked out at the stars. We have no choice. The Krill are faltering. The time has come for a new order in the galaxy. Back on Earth, General Torres sat in her dark command center, watching a galaxy map as her technician spoke. Ma'am, we've received a transmission from the Xarn. They'd want a meeting. Torres didn't react immediately. She had known this would happen. The galaxy's powers would soon come to her, either to ally or to fight. Put it through, Torres ordered. The hologram flickered to life, and Zorvok's insectoid face appeared on the screen. His voice was hesitant, but serious. General Torres, we were watching the attack. The humans have shown great power. The Krill are vulnerable. We wish to discuss an alliance. Torres raised an eyebrow. An alliance? With you. Zorvok's eyes glowed faintly. Yes, the Krill cannot be trusted anymore. We were uncertain about humans, but now we see that you have the strength to change the balance of power. We want to join forces. Torres leaned forward. What do you bring to the table? Zorvok hesitated, then spoke with more confidence. The Xarn control the deep sectors of space. We have access to technology, resources, and fleets that could be useful to your cause. We can help you fight the remaining Krill and stabilize the galaxy. Torres was quiet for a moment. She had planned this, knowing that the Xarn and other races would come to her after seeing the destruction of the Krill. But she wasn't sure if the Xarn could be trusted. Their motives were always a mystery. "How can I trust you?" Torres asked. Zorvok's antennae twitched. "We have no choice but to trust you now. The Krill were once our greatest enemy, but they are weak. We need to make a decision now, or we will all fall under their shadow again." Torres thought for a moment. The offer was tempting, but she knew that an alliance with the Xarn could change everything. It could bring new allies, but it could also bring new enemies. "We'll consider your proposal," Torres said, her tone firm. "But understand this. If we join forces, it will be on human terms, not yours. Do you understand?" Zorvok nodded, a hint of respect in his voice. "Of course, General. We'll follow your lead." On the Krill homeworld, the High Council gathered in secret. Their defeat was a blow to their pride, and the galaxy was watching closely. The Krill could not show weakness. They could not allow this to become a turning point. "We must make our move now," Warlord Drax snarled. "The humans are nothing but pests. We will burn their colonies to the ground. We must remind them who rules the galaxy." The Emperor's voice was cold, his eyes glowing with anger. "We cannot strike too soon. We need more strength. We need to rally the galaxy's other powers. The humans think they've won. They've made a mistake. Then we will make them pay," Drax said, his tone full of hate. The Emperor's lips curled into a smile. "Yes, but first, we need allies. We will reach out to the other races. If they think they can stand with humanity, they will find out that the Krill are still the true power in this galaxy." Back on Earth, General Torres walked down the quiet hall of the underground command center, lost in thought. She knew the Krill would come for revenge. The war was far from over. But now, something had changed. She had allies. The galaxy was starting to wake up to the truth. Humanity was no longer weak. They were a force to be reckoned with. And the Krill would learn that lesson soon enough. The stars in the galaxy were no longer silent. Something had shifted. The hum of long-forgotten wars and ancient alliances had returned. The actions of humanity had caught the attention of every power across the galaxy. And now, the Krill were not just facing humans. They were facing a new galaxy, one that might no longer bend to their will. On Earth, General Torres stood on the command deck of a massive warship, staring out into space. The stars were a sea of infinite possibilities. The humans had won their first battles, but they had made many enemies. The Krill had retreated for now, but Torres knew this was far from over. "Ma'am," the tech officer spoke up. "The Xarn fleet is approaching. They've honored their word and are ready to join our forces." Torres turned her head, her face expressionless. The Xarn had pledged their support, but it wasn't a simple alliance. There were strings attached. She had to wonder, could they be trusted, or were they playing their own game? "I know," Torres said. "Prepare the fleet for the meeting. We'll see what they bring to the table." Meanwhile, far from Earth, on the remote planet of Zethar 4, an ancient race of beings known as the Sithura had gathered in secret. Their species was older than the Krill, and their knowledge of the galaxy was vast. The Sithura elder, Ishan, stood before a hologram showing the recent battle reports. The image of the destroyed Krill fleet flashed across the screen. The Zorvan Empire was built on the ashes of others. Over the last century, they had burned many planets. They called it cleansing. If a world resisted, it was destroyed. Cities turned to smoke. Forests became ash. People, human or alien, were erased. But the Zorvans didn't care. They thought fear made them strong. Now, those same flames were coming back to them. Only this time, they weren't the ones holding the torch. It started with a planet called Drexel-9, a fuel processing world rich with plasma cores. The Zorvans had taken it from a small reptilian race years ago. The native species was wiped out. The planet became a war factory. One morning, the sky above Drexel-9 turned red. The black human ships arrived silently, just like before. But this time, they didn't just destroy outposts or supply ships. They destroyed everything. With perfect coordination, they hit power plants, weapon depots, fuel towers, and finally, the orbital command center. One by one, every building on Drexel 9 exploded. Firestorms spread across the land. The air turned black. The entire planet burned for 2 days straight. The Zorvan News tried to hide it, but someone leaked the satellite footage. Everyone saw it, and everyone heard the final message, broadcast across the planet's final hour. You burned our homes. Now feel your own fire. After Drexel 9 came Varnuk, a colony where human children had once been experimented on. No one had survived. Commander Mira Talon had seen those reports. She hadn't forgotten. The Retribution, her flagship, arrived at Varnuk without warning. Human drop pods rained down from orbit like falling stars. Troops in dark armor stormed the colony. Every lab, every officer, every guard station was destroyed. At the center of the base, the humans found a wall. Names were written on it. Human names. Children's names. The soldiers stood silent. Then Mira stepped forward and placed a metal plaque over the wall. It read, "Never again." They left the colony in flames. Across the Zorvan Empire, panic grew. "No planet is safe," said Admiral Gorin. "They're not just fighting us. They're erasing us." One Zorvan leader, Counselor Threx, asked, "Why don't we offer peace now? Give them back Earth. Give them space." But others laughed at him. "The humans won't stop," said General Varn. "They want revenge." "No," whispered an old voice. It was Carthon, the ancient Zorvan scholar. "They don't want revenge," he said. "They want us to feel what they felt." He looked around the war table. "We burned their worlds. Now they are burning ours. That is not madness. That is memory." Some Zorvans tried to run. Small groups fled to outer colonies, hoping to escape the human wave. It didn't help, because the humans weren't chasing soldiers, they were chasing justice. They struck factories, prisons, war centers, any place where pain had lived. In just 2 months, 7 Zorvan-controlled worlds were destroyed or crippled. But no civilians were harmed, only military and government targets. It was war, but not chaos. It was fire, with purpose. On board the Retribution, Mira Talon stood alone, staring at a star map. Her hand hovered over her next target, Zovar Prime, the Empire's heart. Her officer entered. "We've received a message." She turned. "From who?" "An old Zorvan counselor. He says he wants to talk. Says he's sorry." Mira narrowed her eyes. "Sorry now." She looked at the screen. The words of the message were short. "We didn't listen. We should have. I fear it's too late. But if there is anything left in you, anything human, stop the burning." Mira didn't respond. She walked to the window and looked out into the stars. So many worlds, so many wounds. She whispered to herself, "Maybe we are still human, but they should pray. We're not done being angry." Outside, the human fleet moved forward, one world at a time. On the Retribution, Mira's thoughts often returned to Earth, the place where humanity had begun, the place that had shaped them, but was now gone forever. One evening, as the ship sailed through the darkness, Mira stood on the observation deck, watching the stars again. The voice beside her broke the silence. "Do you ever think we'll find Earth again?" Lieutenant Corin asked. Mira didn't answer right away. The question had haunted her too. Could humanity ever return to their roots, or was Earth truly lost to them? Finally, she spoke, her voice steady. "Maybe not Earth, but that doesn't mean we can't make something new, something better." It wasn't long before the first of the Zorvans reached out, not for war, but for peace. A small group of Zorvan leaders, those who had not been part of the destruction, made contact with Mira. They had seen what the humans could do, and they knew they had to change. The old ways, the ways of conquest and domination, were finished. "We have learned our lesson," one of the Zorvan ambassadors said. "We ask for your mercy, but more than that, we ask to build a future together." Mira listened quietly. The pain of the past was still fresh, but there was something in the Zorvan's words that rang true. Maybe this was the future humanity had been fighting for, not just survival, but the chance to rebuild and reshape the galaxy. "Mercy?" Mira repeated. "Perhaps, but peace requires more than words. It requires trust." And so, the talks began. The Zorvans, humbled and broken, extended their hands to humanity. Slowly, with time, new alliances began to form. It would not be easy. Old wounds were not easily healed, but it was a start. On the human side, Mira knew the path ahead would not be without difficulty. The galaxy had been changed forever by the war. Humanity had proven their strength, but the question remained, could they keep their humanity in a galaxy now filled with shadows of the past? As the Retribution cruised through space, carrying her and her crew toward the next chapter of history, Mira felt a quiet sense of peace settle in her chest. They had done what they needed to do. They had reclaimed their dignity, their strength, and their place in the stars. Now they would work to build something better. A new dawn, not just for humanity, but for the galaxy. And for the first time in a long time, Mira could almost believe that, in the future, the stars might shine a little brighter. With the Retribution leading the way, humanity would not just survive, they would flourish. Earth might be gone, but the spirit of its people, their courage and resilience, would live on. And in the years to come, it would be known that humanity was no longer a race to be feared, but one to be respected. The future was uncertain, but the one thing humanity knew for sure was this: they would never forget their past. They would carry the memory of Earth with them, wherever they went. And with that, the galaxy would never forget humanity either. The Krill destroyer Fang of Dawn floated silently through Sector 9. It was supposed to be a routine patrol. Boring. Easy. Nothing ever happened in the outer zones. But then, it disappeared. No distress signal. No enemy on sensors. No escape pods. Gone. Just like that. 3 days later, another Krill patrol ship vanished in the same sector. Now the Krill High Command was paying attention. Inside the Krill War Council chamber, the air was tense. "The humans must be using pirate mercenaries," growled Warlord Drax, slamming a thick fist onto the table. "There are no signs of pirates," hissed Admiral Kaiser. "No debris. No radiation. No messages. No survivors." The Emperor Zevrak narrowed his glowing red eyes. "Are you saying humans did this alone?" Kaiser hesitated. "They haven't made a move in weeks. No public response to our strike on their ship. That is the strange part." "They're weak," Drax repeated. "They're hiding." The Emperor didn't respond, but deep in his mind, a small doubt had started to grow. Far across the galaxy, inside a stealth station orbiting a dead star, General Mayatorres stood in front of a digital war table. It showed 3 red dots blinking. "Krill ships. Gone." "Report," she ordered. An AI voice answered, calm and cold. "Silent Ops Team 3 completed Phase 2. No witnesses. No evidence. All targets neutralized." Torres nodded. "Continue." She didn't smile. This wasn't revenge. This was calculation. The Krill didn't know it yet, but Earth had sent out invisible hunters, small, advanced ships with cloaking tech the galaxy had never seen before. They didn't attack in swarms. They hit fast, quiet, precise. The galaxy believed humans were emotional, loud, and weak. Now humanity was silent and dangerous. In Krill space, Scout Ship C-49 picked up a strange transmission. At first, it sounded like static. Then a human voice broke through. "You broke the peace. Now feel what peace held back." Then silence. The Scout's captain, A young Krill named Vosker ordered the crew to trace the signal. "Find the source," he shouted. Before they could, the lights on the ship flickered. Engines failed. Systems froze. One crew member screamed as the control panel melted in front of her. Vosker tried to send an emergency message, but all he managed was a short scream before the entire ship blinked off scanners. Another ghost. The Krill military tried to hide the losses. They told the galaxy it was technical failure, but rumors spread fast. Krill traders refused to fly through Sector 9. Krill colonies increased local security. Soldiers started whispering in dark corners. The humans are doing something. On Earth, a small group of scientists stood in front of a large, black, smooth machine. It didn't look like anything from Earth. That's because it wasn't. It was Krill tech, captured, cracked open, and rebuilt by human hands. And now, it worked better. "We've completed the tests," said Dr. Lyon. "The ship's new shield system is fully functional. It can take a direct hit and stay invisible." General Torres nodded. "Good. Load it onto the stealth carrier. Next target is Krill Base 7. Humanity hadn't just prepared, they had evolved. Faster than any race expected. The Galactic Council met in secret on a neutral moon. Representatives from 12 alien species sat in a dark chamber, watching a recorded video. It showed one of the missing Krill ships blinking out of space with no trace. "This was taken just before the ship vanished," said the Xarn ambassador. "Are you saying the humans have stealth strike ships?" asked a nervous insectoid delegate. "They denied building any weapons after the treaty," said another. "They lied," the Xarn replied coldly. Silence followed. Then someone whispered, "What if they're not responding because they're planning something big?" In the shadows of space, deep behind enemy lines, a human stealth frigate glided silently past a Krill communications hub. The crew inside didn't speak. Every breath was measured, every movement controlled. "Target in range," the pilot whispered. "Deploying beacon," said the co-pilot. A tiny device launched from the ship. It latched onto the hub's main tower. A green light blinked. Then nothing. The human ship turned and vanished into the void, unseen, unheard. Inside the Krill hub, everything seemed normal. But a countdown had begun. The beacon wasn't a bomb. It was something worse. It was a key. A key to the enemy's secrets. On Earth, in a war room buried under ice and steel, a technician stared at his screen. "General," he said, "we just tapped into the Krill military command channel." Torres walked over. "How much access?" The technician smiled. "All of it." The humans had been silent for weeks. Now they were listening, watching, planning. The Krill had struck first. They were about to learn what happened when humans struck back. The Krill Empire had long been known for its power. Their warships were massive, their weapons deadly, and their fleets endless. But now, in the cold void of space, something they never expected was happening. The humans weren't begging for peace. They weren't retreating. They were waiting and watching. Now, the waiting was over. On the Krill capital ship Farluk, Admiral Kezer stood on the bridge, staring at the holomap of Krill space. He clenched his fists. Their command centers were being hacked, their supply lines destroyed. And still, no human fleet in sight. "They're playing with us," Kezer muttered, his yellow eyes glowing with anger. "But we will finish it now." He turned to his officers. "Prepare the fleet for a full assault on the human colonies. No mercy. Show them what happens when you challenge the Krill Empire." The officers nodded. They were eager for victory, eager to show the galaxy that humans were nothing more than a nuisance to be crushed. But Kezer felt a cold feeling in his gut. His fleet was ready, but there was something strange in the air. He couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't going to go as planned. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Maya Torres stood in front of the massive war table, her eyes fixed on the red blinking dots that represented Krill military movements. "Targets confirmed," said her technician. "They're sending a full fleet toward the outer colonies. It's their final push." Tortoise didn't flinch. She had known this day was coming. But the moment they attacked, it would be too late for the krill. They had underestimated humanity. "Activate Phase 1, Torres ordered. In the darkness of space, hidden deep within a giant asteroid field, the first wave of human stealth ships came to life. Silent and invisible, they moved through the dense rock clouds, their advanced cloaking systems rendering them nearly impossible to detect. "Ready the pods," a pilot whispered. Each ship carried a deadly surprise. Small, specialized drones armed with an energy pulse that could disable entire fleets in seconds. These weren't weapons. They were tools of precision. "Once we're in position, they'll never see us coming," the pilot said. Back on the krill flagship Varlock, Admiral Kezer barked orders to his fleet. "Prepare for launch. Target all human colonies. Destroy everything." The fleet roared into action, hyperspace engines igniting as they shot toward their target. The destruction of Earth's outer colonies would be the final blow. The galaxy would finally see the krill's dominance, and the humans would be broken forever. But as the fleet entered the outer system, something unexpected happened. "Sir, we're picking up strange readings," a technician said, his voice trembling. "Explain," Kezer snapped. The technician's fingers flew over the controls. "There's nothing on the scanners, but there's something else. It's almost like a disturbance in the energy fields. We can't track it." Before Kezer could respond, the warning alarms blared. "Enemy ships detected. They're all around us." The crew scrambled to their stations. It was too late. The human ships had already struck. On the bridge of the Varlock, the lights flickered and went out. Panic spread among the krill officers. Weapons were offline. Communication systems failed. Their shields were down. "Where are they?" Kezer shouted. The krill fleet, once feared across the galaxy, was now blind, vulnerable. In the chaos, the first wave of human drones struck. In a flash, massive energy pulses slammed into the krill warships, disabling their weapons, their engines, their shields. The fleets, once a symbol of fear, were now helpless. Back on Earth, General Torres watched the attack unfold from a secure command center. "Phase 1 complete," the technician reported. "Their fleet is paralyzed." Torres felt a surge of cold satisfaction. The first strike had been successful. But this was only the beginning. They had the upper hand now. The krill had no idea what was coming next. "Prepare for Phase 2, Torres ordered. Inside the crippled Varlock, Kezer struggled to maintain control. His fleet was in disarray. The human drones had hit them hard, and they couldn't even fight back. "What do we do now, Admiral?" a trembling officer asked. We retreat," Kezer barked. "We can't stay here. Get us out of here, now." The krill homeworld was always noisy. Giant towers, glowing streets, and the endless hum of machines filled the capital city of Kravax Prime. But now something had changed. People walked faster. Soldiers looked nervous. Whispers filled the air like smoke. Something was wrong. In a crowded public square, a large screen lit up. It played a strange message on a loop. A human voice, calm but cold, spoke in perfect krill language. "You broke the peace. Now you will learn what peace kept hidden." Then the power in the square went out. Shouts filled the air. Shops shut down. Drones crashed to the ground. For 20 minutes, the entire city was in darkness. No one knew why. When the power returned, the message had vanished. But the fear stayed. Deep inside a krill warbase on the moon Voron 6, Admiral Kezer slammed a fist on the table. Another blackout. Third one this week. His staff said nothing. "We are being hacked," he growled. "Our systems, our ships, our weapons, they're all connected. And someone is inside them." "Humans," one officer whispered. Kezer didn't answer. He didn't have to. They all knew the truth. At the same time, on a small farming planet in Krill territory, something strange happened. First, the skies turned red. Then, every power station shut down in perfect sequence. And then, as people stared at the sky in fear, an old human broadcast played on every device. We gave you peace. You gave us fire. Now watch what we do with both. Back on Earth, in a hidden base under the Pacific Ocean, General Torres stood in front of a digital war map. Green dots marked human stealth operations. Red ones marked Krill military bases. One by one, the red dots were blinking off. "We've disabled 6 of their outer colonies without a single shot fired," said the technician beside her. Torres nodded. "Good, but this is only the beginning. Let them fear the dark. Let them fear the silence." She turned to the screen. "Launch Phantom Protocol." In Krill command centers, alarms kept going off. Ships lost contact. Satellites vanished. Secret bases stopped reporting in. But no enemy fleet ever appeared. No human voice explained what was happening. It was as if something invisible was pulling the Krill Empire apart, piece by piece. Inside the War Palace, Emperor Zevrak shouted at his generals, "Why haven't you crushed them yet? They are only humans." No one answered. Then a young officer stepped forward. His voice shook. "Your Highness, the humans are not using armies. They are using shadows. We cannot fight what we cannot see." The Emperor's eyes burned with rage. "Then build bigger weapons. Hunt them down." But inside, Zevrak was no longer sure. This was not the enemy he had mocked. This was something else. Meanwhile, the galaxy watched. Other alien races saw the cracks in the Krill Empire. Some were pleased. Others were frightened. In the Council of Nine, whispers spread among the delegates. If humans can reach inside Krill systems, they can reach anyone. What if they turn on us next? But the Tsarn delegate said something different. They are not attacking civilians, only military targets. This is not chaos. This is controlled. And that made it even scarier. On a distant planet, a small group of Krill children looked up at the stars. "Is it true?" one asked. "Are humans really monsters?" The oldest child shook her head. "No, they were peaceful once. But now, there's something else." She pointed to the sky. "They're ghosts. And they're coming." Back on Earth, General Torres received a private report. "Ma'am," said the officer, "one of our stealth probes got inside the Krill Central Command Hub. We have everything. Fleet routes, weapon codes, energy grids." Torres narrowed her eyes. "They're completely exposed." "Yes." She paused, then spoke slowly. "Then it's time we remind them why peace was the best deal they ever got." Far in deep space, a Krill general stared at a list of lost assets. Ships, stations, soldiers, billions in damage. No enemy to shoot at, no war to win. He whispered to himself, "We thought they were weak. But this is war without mercy." She stood at the center of the command room, her face set in grim determination. "Prepare counterstrike," she ordered. "Target the core. We end this now." The human fleet turned its focus on the underground weapon. In seconds, it was gone, destroyed in a fiery explosion that shook the planet itself. The Zorvans were losing. Their fleet was destroyed. Their defenses were gone, and their planet was under attack. On Zovar Prime's surface, the capital city was aflame. The once proud towers of the Zorvan Council fell one by one. The people of Zovar Prime, who had lived in luxury and fear for so long, now watched in horror as their empire crumbled. The humans had come to reclaim what was taken from them. As the battle raged on, Admiral Gorin stood on the balcony of the Grand Palace, staring out at the destruction. The skies were filled with smoke, fire, and the ruins of his empire. He knew it was over. He had been part of the generation that had burned Earth. He had led the invasion, believing the humans were weak. But now, in the face of their anger, their pain, and their fury, he realized the truth. They were never weak. And now, the galaxy would learn that. Mira Talon watched the destruction from her ship. She knew the Zorvans would never understand. They would never feel what she felt. But they would learn what it meant to be human. She gave the order to stop the attacks. The message had been delivered. The flames had burned. "We don't need to destroy them all," Mira said quietly. "We just needed to remind them." The humans left Zovar Prime, their message clear. They had come for justice, and the galaxy would never forget the day the Zorvans learned what it meant to face the fire they had started. The war was over. The Zorvans were broken. Their empire was in ruins. The fleet they had used to conquer worlds now lay in ashes. The once great council was scattered, their leaders hiding in fear. But for Commander Mira Talon, it was never about the destruction. It had never been about revenge. It was about something deeper, something that the Zorvans had taken away, something the humans would never forget. The retribution left the burning remains of Zovar Prime, leaving behind a shattered planet,